Started, if you could. Thank you so much. Thank you for starting the recording. I am going to share my screen and we are going to get started in just a moment. As soon as I maximize my screen, you should see my full screen now. Thank you all, colleagues, for joining the first sub-working group meeting of Working Group 1.2, Trafficking of Synthetic Drugs. My name is Brian Morales. I'm the chief of the Counter-Narcotics Branch at the U.S. Department of State, Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs. I'm just going to provide a few administrative announcements to get ourselves started. Today we are starting the sub-working groups with 4 hours of programming. This is the second hour for sub-working group 1.2, which is part of working group 1 on manufacturing and trafficking. We have 2 additional hours following this on detecting threats and patterns, and the 2 sub-working groups that you see on the screen there. Tomorrow, we will have our public health meetings. That will be a 3-hour block of meetings on the 3 sub-working group topics. At the bottom right of the screen, you see an email address, syntheticscoalition@state.gov. That is our team at the State Department, the Secretariat for the Coalition's work. We invite you to write to us with any questions, comments, concerns to make your work more productive during this year of the Coalition's work. I also want to share that registration will remain open for both working groups and sub-working groups for the remainder of the coalition year through September of 2024. So please, we encourage you to share the links with other government and international organization colleagues. We welcome additional registrants on specialized topics that we'll be discussing. If you need these links digitally, you can again email us at the email address at the bottom right hand of the screen. We are developing a new website for the coalition. All of the presentations from today's sessions will be there, will be recorded and posted on the coalition website. But importantly, we will be stopping the recording when the presentations end so that the comments period will not be recorded to allow for maximum flexibility and comfort of the delegates in sharing their thoughts. In the next few weeks, the Secretariat will be sending the full meeting schedule for all of the events that will be taking place over the next several months so that you will have the calendar invites, and you will also have the meeting schedule for the entire year with the dates of the meeting. So with that, I will now share the meeting schedule for the next few months. We have first this session in October, which is framing the issue, sharing what the major challenges are related to the issue that we are discussing here today, as well as what the landscape looks like. Then between November and February, we have the very important sessions to share best practices and models. The idea is that this is the time to look at what some of that global architecture opportunities are for engaging and identifying those intervention points that then lead to deliverables and commitments. We want to go beyond discussing to concretely looking at operational opportunities for engagement with members of the coalition and concrete initiatives where we will work together to address synthetic drugs. So that will be identified between November and February. In March, we will have the sub-working group co-chairs report to the working group co-chairs in terms of progress that's being made with their individual sub-working groups. And then between April and July, we will be doing action planning and implementation of these programs. Of course, this is just going to be a start, and we will continue this work for years to come, and in a much more intensified way, expanded way. We might start new initiatives or expand existing initiatives. But having said that, the coalition itself will be wrapping up by September. So in August, we will have a session to evaluate and ensure sustainability and transition. And then the final coalition working group meeting will take place in September. Our events, our initiatives will continue through other international organizations and partners, but the coalition and its final report will take place in September. So that is all I wanted to share in terms of administrative announcements for today. And now I want to introduce a few folks. First, We have the international organization coordinator who is helping us in terms of the communication and the support to the co-chairs. His name is Rainer Punks. He's the program manager for drugs and precursor chemicals at the UNODC Regional Office for Southeast Asia and the Pacific in Bangkok. But I think he's actually in Bali, if I'm not mistaken. So, Rainer, turning it over to you for your welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brian, again. Yes, I'm actually in Bali for the on-layer meeting, coordinating working groups, as usual. And it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope it can be useful for the coalition overall work and see if we can get to better solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rainer. Thank you so much. We have two co-chairs for this sub-working group. Our first co-chair from Australia, who I believe unfortunately is not able to make it today, but is looking forward very much to joining the next session, next month's session, is Anthony Conway, Detective Superintendent of Crime Strategies, Crime Command, Australian Federal Police. And then from Fiji, we have Mason Smith, Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration. I'm going to turn it over for Mason to introduce himself and then to begin today's session as we then move on to our presenter for this session. So over to you, Mason. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian, Reina, colleagues. Good afternoon, and Bulubinaka from sunny Fiji. It's good to connect to this sub-working group session on trafficking of synthetic drugs. I've just listened into the first session. Very interesting take on manufacturing, and I'm sure we'll be able to hear some very good ideas on how to stop trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now we are going to move to our presenter for today. And for this sub-working group, we have Inshik Sim, who is the research officer in the Office of Southeast Asia and the Pacific for UNODC, again out of Bangkok. And I see Inshik is online. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Inshik, you're going to do your presentation live today. So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much for presenting for us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning or good evening, colleagues. Please allow me to share my screen first. Okay, I hope that there will be no issue for sharing my screen.
And we can see your screen. You may want to move it into the presentation mode, please.
Yes, we'll do. Okay, it looks okay?
That's perfectly fine. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you very much. So just to briefly introduce myself a little bit, my name is Inshik Shim. I've been working for UNODC over the last 11 years. I'm based in Bangkok, where our regional office for Southeast Asia and the Pacific is located. I've been closely monitoring the synthetic drug situation in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. And then today my presentation will highlight on those observations and also some of the impacts of this expansion of synthetic drug markets in Southeast Asia and the Pacific to the neighboring regions. So this is the map that shows the global challenges on drug issues. And I circled an area where our participants joined today. If you look at South Asia, there is, of course, the expanding the synthetic drug problems in South Asia. And East and Southeast Asia, is the region has been witnessing the continuous growth of the synthetic drug market, in particular methamphetamines. And when you move to the Pacific area, including Oceania, you see high prevalence of methamphetamine use and the growing methamphetamine challenge. So all in all, what I want to highlight here is that the synthetic drug is a problem across all regions of Asia and the Pacific. You can see the graph here that shows the global methamphetamine seizures. There are two regions are more like spot out in this graph. One is East and Southeast Asia, which is represented with this reddish bar. And the other one is the North America, which is a light green bar. I mean, these two regions, the seizures of methamphetamine in these two regions account for nearly 90% of the global total. On your right, you can see some of the breakdown of seizures of meth over the last 5 years, that there is a non-traditional markets that we mentioned as 9.2% accounting for the global seizures. You can see that a lot of them are actually from this Asia region. This is a graph, the seizures of methamphetamine in East and Southeast Asia. You can see that it's been increasing until 2021 and 2022. There was a slight decrease, but nonetheless, it was 152 tons seized in East and Southeast Asia. This is a huge amount, without a doubt. And some of the indicators that we have observed that in 2022, there may have been a lot of missed big shipments by law enforcement authorities is because of the change in the preferred trafficking modality by organized crime groups in the region. And 2023, this is up to the June this year, that we see there are about 80 tons of methamphetamines already seized. And Q3, several countries made a huge seizures of methamphetamines that we expect that 2023 total will be higher than 2022, more close to 2021. And it is also important to highlight that the methamphetamine that produced from so-called the Golden Triangle, Shan State, Myanmar, it's been really unprecedented level of methamphetamine been produced there. And a country like Thailand and Laos, PDL, in 2023, for the first 6 months, they seized more quantities of crystal methamphetamines compared to 2022, the whole year. The map is a very generalized map. Nonetheless, it shows some of the major routes of the methamphetamine trafficking in Asia and the Pacific region. You can see some of dots here that represents the scale of the methamphetamine manufacture in the region. Shan State, Myanmar has a huge, the bigger dot than the others. Basically, methamphetamine produced in the Shan State, Myanmar has been largely trafficked to Southeast Asian countries, but also East Asian countries like Japan and Korea, and also to Oceania, like Australia and some of the Pacific countries. What is interesting is increased flows of methamphetamine from Myanmar to South Asian countries, in particular India and Bangladesh. One of the biggest concerns for us is that the decreases in price of crystal methamphetamine in the region. Despite of the increases in the crystal methamphetamine seizures, when you look at the price of this particular drug, it's been decreasing over the years. For instance, in Thailand, in 2022, 1 kilogram of crystal meth was about $4,400 US, which is basically the half of the price reported 2 years ago, just simply 2 years ago. And Laos price also decreasing quite rapidly. And then price in Myanmar, what we heard from the border officials walking around the borders, it can be as low as about 1,500, maybe close to more $1,000 per kilogram. This is a particular, this is interesting, the package. We say that the crystal meth produced in Shan State, Myanmar, the organized crime group's been using particular tea bag packages known as Chinese tea bag in the regions to conceal these crystal methamphetamines. Each tea bag contains about a kilogram. It's very neatly vacuum sealed, and it's been trafficked through this tea bag. The organized crime has been using these tea bags, various tea bags, to conceal this crystal meth for trafficking purposes. I earlier mentioned some of the non-traditional methamphetamine market. One of the region is South Asia. This is the seizures of meth in Southeast Asia over the last 2 decades. You see that basically the general trend has been rapidly showing the rapid increases in methamphetamine seizures in South Asia. Also, some of the local manufacture of meth has been reported from this region, although the scale is not as big as those observed in Shan State, Myanmar. I mentioned also earlier that the impacts of the expanding meth market in Southeast Asia to the neighboring region. When you look at South Asia, it started with a methamphetamine tablet known as yaba, but now it's also crystal meth. It's been trafficked from Southeast Asia to South Asia. The graph shows that in Bangladesh, in 2022, basically there was no crystal meth seizures, but in 2022, about 120 kilos of crystal meth were seized in Bangladesh. You might think that it's not much, but this is a starting, and you can see that literally every day, that the seizures of meth from Southeast Asia to those countries, Bangladesh and India, has been reported. This map is just the several cases reported over the last months in northeastern part of India and Bangladesh. So the key point here is, I think the markets between Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia, the methamphetamine market's been increasingly connected. This is the graph of seizures of amphetamine and methamphetamine in the Near and Middle East and Southwest Asia over the last decade. And of course, we all know that this region has more problems associated with amphetamine, especially 5-captagon. But nonetheless, you can see also the increases in methamphetamine seizures in this part of the world. The meth seizure here represented with a darker blue color. You can see in 2021, the seizures of meth were the record amounts in this part of the world. This is mainly because of these methamphetamines that produced from Afghanistan and Iranian border area. You can see the Southwest Asian seizures of meth is increasing rapidly, as well as Afghanistan authorities been reporting the increases in meth seizures. Those methamphetamine produced from that part of the world also traffic to many different parts of the world as well. On your right, you can see some of the names of the countries in Southeast Asia. There's one country that have reported the seizures of meth from that part of the world is Indonesia. Pacific, we should not really forget the growing methamphetamine concern in the Pacific. There are some major seizures that I have highlighted here in the slide, but the last year, November, I was in the Pacific. I had a meeting with our law enforcement authorities from Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu, and Solomon Islands. And they all highlighted that the methamphetamine market's been expanding in that country. Especially for Fiji, mentioned that while cocaine tends to be transit in the countries for subsequent trafficking to other countries, meth often stays in the market. And you can see that this is not a good sign, because I see that several seizures of the small quantities of methamphetamine on the street by law enforcement authorities. That shows that the expansion of this meth market in Fiji, and also authorities found some of the needle and syringes on the street, and then the Fiji Forensic Authority tested. It shows that the methamphetamine from that syringe, it shows also some of the challenge related to public health associated with the meth use. And one other point is the organized crime group's been exploiting this Pacific. In the past was more for transit, but also at the same nowadays we see some of the indications that Pacific may have been targeted for the manufacture as well. Especially in the PNG, there was an attempt by organized crime groups been trying to produce the methamphetamine as well. And the PNG was used, Papua New Guinea PNG was used as a transit for these 52 kilos of crystal meth coming out from there to Australia. I highlight some of the major challenges associated with the methamphetamines, but let me move on to ketamine. Ketamine is a significant concern for countries in East and Southeast Asia. In 2022, the seizures of ketamine reached record level with 27.4 tons. And one particular trend that you can see here, the seizures of ketamine in Southeast Asia is much larger than East Asia. If you look at 2017, the seizures of ketamine in East Asia was much, much larger than that of Southeast Asia. However, it's not the case anymore. It's mainly because of the organized crime groups been starting to producing ketamine in Southeast Asia. And last year, July, myself and colleagues from our University Regional Office visited Cambodia to assess the illicit ketamine manufacturing facilities that seized in that country. This is one of the photos. And the more photos are here that you can see this is not a really small scale laboratories. It's significant scale illicit ketamine manufacturing facilities. Also, there are many chemical storage sites that we observed, and altogether, Cambodian authorities since late 2020, they seized about 600 tons of different chemicals that are that can be used for various synthetic drugs, including ketamine. This is a generalized also ketamine trafficking flows. There's also some dots here in the map that shows the scale of ketamine manufacture. Golden Triangle, Shan-State, Myanmar, also been has been targeted by organized crime group for the illicit manufacture of ketamine. One particular trend that we observe is that the organized crime group's been trying to traffic significant quantity of meth and ketamine at the same time in a one shipment. This is maybe because of they wanted to create the ketamine market together by using already firmly established methamphetamine market in the region. The ketamine is also found in some various synthetic drug products found in the region. There is one particular product known as a happy water. It's been rapidly expanding, especially in the Mekong region, but gradually to other countries in the Southeast Asia, like Malaysia and Indonesia as well. When we talk to the forensic authorities, when they analyze these happy water, the components of happy water is all different. I mean, their ingredients are mainly ketamine, MDMA, some meth or substance. However, the composition of all these happy water is very different. I'm pretty sure this happy water will find markets in the neighboring countries of this region as well, as we have seen that was the case for methamphetamines and the ketamine as well. New psychoactive substances, I will be very honest, this is not as serious as methamphetamine or ketamine. Nonetheless, the number of MPS been, the new MPS has been continuously found in the regions. At the global level, over 1,200 individual MPS were reported from this region. About half of those were reported. One interesting point here is that how organized crime groups been circumventing existing international or national regulatory or legal responses to this MPS. For instance, in 2021, July 2021, the government of China adopted some generic scheduling for synthetic cannabinoids by using some the main structure as a backbone structure as a basis. Ever since that, we have seen some of the new synthetic cannabinoids the circumventing the generic scheduling of Chinese response. There was oxygen, the substance of synthetic cannabinoids has been reported from countries across the region. I heard the discussions took place for the working group 1.1 for the manufacture of synthetic drugs, and many points were related to precursor chemicals and control. In the region, we don't really see the seizures of these key chemicals for methamphetamine like amphetamine, pseudoephedrine, or P2P. Very, very, very small amounts of those chemicals were seized. But also, there were limited seizures of those non-controlled chemicals, but there are a few cases that show that some of these non-controlled chemicals may have been used for the illicit manufacture of methamphetamine or its precursor. And how this chemical has been sourced by organized crime, of course, there are just many ways, but one of them is the sourcing through online platform or social media. It is not really difficult to find information on the online, and if you use these e-platforms, you type some of the chemicals, you can easily find those. And what we also have seen is that some of these I would say the customized packaging for those chemicals and they offer mislabeling services or special freight forwarding services for buyers, which is very, very suspicious, of course. Then organized crime groups basically have a better access for these chemical for their illicit purposes. So all in all, I think I have seen this. I've been closely monitoring the synthetic drug markets in the region over a decade, and what I have seen is that the organized crime groups been able to expand the synthetic drug market by putting significant quantities of supply. Basically, supply created a demand in the regions. In that regard, I think it is very important to understand the mechanics of this trafficking and how organized crime has been operating in this synthetic drug business. Although synthetic drug can be manufactured anywhere as long as you have right chemicals and chemists. We see that more of the consolidation into areas where there is a governance challenges, uh, as well as like some border management deficiencies. And these groups have been continuously exploiting the enforcement and regulatory gaps. I mentioned of these non-control chemical challenges. It can be also observed in the new psychoactive substances market. And we have seen in the region that criminal groups has been trying to make some investments in the critical infrastructures and legitimate business to expand this illicit synthetic drug economies. And also we have seen the accelerated adoption of technology and communication platforms by organized crime groups. Whenever we talk to law enforcement authority in the regions, one of the main challenges is that there's increased use of this the encrypted communication platforms like telegrams and also the darknet, and those technologies being increasingly adopted by organized crime groups, while law enforcement authority in the regions have difficulties in investigating the cases associated with these technologies. I will leave it at that. I hope that my presentation was helpful to frame the issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Inchik. We'll turn it over now to Mason. You can share your thoughts and then moderate the discussion. Over to you.
Thank